Have you ever wondered if ADHD could be part of your story? These days, it's everywhere. Kids being diagnosed, young adults saying they have finally have an explanation. But 30 or 40 years ago, ADHD was rarely talked about. Back then, if you were restless, impulsive, or easily distracted, you weren't called ADHD. You were called lazy, scatterbrained, a dreamer, difficult, or even just bad at school. So many of those labels stuck with people all their life. Now the language has changed. Doctors, clinicians are more aware. Diagnostic criteria have broadened, and social media has made ADHD almost a cultural shorthand for distractibility. But that leaves a big question. What happens to the children of yesterday, now older adults in their 60s or 70s, who lived with those traits long before the term ADHD became common? For some of you, that question may bring a smile. You remember the quirks, losing your keys, drifting between jobs, never quite finishing projects. But you also remember how you coped. Some of you found practical roles where you thrived. Some carved your own path through self employment, where you didn't need rigid structure. Many of you channeled your energy into creativity, into business, into community. In earlier generations, there was no going to the doctor for attention problems. That would have been stigmatized. Instead, people saw you as the absent minded professor, the fidgeter, the chatterbox. These traits became woven into your personality rather than your medical history. And looking back now, some of you may feel proud because you have adapted and you did well without needing a diagnosis. When the symptoms still trouble you, but for others, that thought stirs something deeper. You may look back and feel the scars. Perhaps impulsivity or inattention was misread as selfishness or unreliability, straining your marriage. Perhaps you carried decades of feeling not good enough or not smart. Maybe you see regret in jobs abandoned or the opportunities missed. And now you may feel weighed down by the clutter, disorganization, or words spoken too quickly. This is where recognizing ADHD can be useful, not as an excuse, but as a way to understand yourself with more compassion. It can help to explain why certain struggles followed you across the decades and open the door and open the possibility of supports you've never had, never accessed to in your younger years. Of course, here's the tricky part. A lot of these symptoms look like normal age. Everyone in their 70s misplaces their glasses now and then. Everyone gets more distractible. But the difference with ADHD is that the pattern is lifelong. It was there when you were a child. It followed you into work, into family life, and it remains today. And we also have to be careful. Other conditions, mild cognitive impairment, depression, anxiety, sleep apnea, or even side effects from medications can look similar. And when ADHD can persist into later life, the idea of new set ADHD in older age is controversial. Often there are better explanations. That's why diagnosis in older adults must be thoughtful and careful. So, what if you do recognize yourself in this picture? What then? What can be done now? There are practical skills that can make a big difference. Using one notebook for everything, setting alarms for your medications, a landing tray for your keys and glasses, breaking down a big jobs into small steps. ADHD focus coaching or cognitive behavioral therapy can help build these habits, not through abstract theory, but through concrete planning organization and time management. Evidence supports that behavioral therapy as an adjunct or as an alternative when medication isn't wanted or tolerated. Medications is also an option. There are stimulant and non-stimulant types, and both can reduce symptoms and improve functioning. They can work later in life, but treatment is not routine and must be approached with caution. Starting low, going slow, and monitoring carefully by your doctor, especially with heart health or other medical conditions. Some find these medicines transformative. Others find the side effects outweigh the gains. The goal is not cure, it is simply to improve functioning to reduce symptoms that still get in your way. If you're wondering about yourself, and if you're sitting at home wondering, how do I know if my symptoms are really ADHD or just age? The best step is to talk with your GP. Diagnosis is structured. It relies on a careful interview about your history and patterns, often supported by questionnaires. But there isn't a single blood test or brain scan. It's about looking at your life story, how these traits have shown up across the years. It's looking at how they impact your daily functioning. Your GP, your doctor, can assess and coordinate referral. In some states in Australia, there are specially trained doctors, GPs, that can initiate or continue treatment themselves. Local rules vary, but your GP is the best first step. What we are seeing today is a cultural reawakening, a whole generation of older adults looking back and reinterpreting their lives through a new lens. For some, it's liberating. For others, bittersweet. Because ADHD in later life isn't just medical, it's deeply tied to identity, to memory, to the story you tell yourself about who you've been. And so, whether you see yourself clearly in the ADHD picture, whether you're just curious, or whether you prefer to leave it aside, the real question is, does your life today feel manageable, meaningful, and at peace? If it does, no label is needed. If it doesn't, there are tools, therapies, and treatments available, even now, to help you live better. And maybe that's the gift of today, that you now have a choice that was rarely even talked about 40 years ago. Thank you for listening.